Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Melanie Gray with another episode of Code Calm, the podcast that gives you tips, techniques, and tools to manage stress and burnout. I am so excited today to have as my guest Elzie Flenard, a faith-driven entrepreneur, podcast host, and creator of the Journey to Mastery platform. Elzie equips founders, entrepreneurs to align their faith, focus, so that they can build profitable authority without drifting from their calling. And I can imagine, Elzie, that being an entrepreneur does have a level of stress. And we have organizational experts, leaders in education and healthcare that might be thinking they need to start a pivot toward something entrepreneurial just because of things happening in the world. And so this is important information. Entrepreneurial skills, I believe, belong to everyone. So thank you for being here and tell us about your journey.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Listen, I'm super excited to be here. My journey is a varied one. I started out in corporate. I always tell people when I was little, there were two things that I knew I wanted. I knew I wanted a family and I knew I wanted to own my own business. And so my plan, this is my 13, 14-year-old brain thinking here, is that I was going to go to school because that was important to my mom, get an education, then get a job so that I could find a wife, we could start a family, and then the second, and I do mean the second I could, I was going to quit that job and do my own thing. Now, I'm happy to report as of today, April 14th, 2026, we have checked all those boxes. Beautiful family, my lovely wife, Victoria, 19-year-old daughter, freshman at Indiana University, and my son is 11, and here I am. I'm running my business full time. And so it was a long journey. It took a lot longer than I thought, a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs and peaks and valleys and all the good stuff in between. But I was blessed enough to get a degree in electronics and work as an electrical engineer for several years, and then found that I loved operations, how to move people and organizations and get them moving in the same direction. So did that for a few years, and then I finally decided that I had enough tools in the tool belt to launch out on my own and do my own thing. And so that's where we are today.
And so before I have you go back, share with the audience what your own thing is.
So I've kind of served two hats. I'm a podcast host, and actually by the time you guys hear this, see this, I would be celebrating my 10th year as a podcast host, which is insane. This podcast world is 10 years is a long time. So I'm like a dinosaur in podcast world. And I run a business around helping faith-driven entrepreneurs get alignment so that they don't drift from their calling, but grow their business at the same time. And so I'm this podcaster, but yet a coach, mentor, guide, if you will. That's what I do that gives me joy and that helps other business owners grow.
Well, I love that. I love that you shared, Elzie, that you had a journey. And I love the phrase that you gave that when you had worked in corporate enough and had enough skills in your toolkit, and I'm believing that means you had skills to help you be successful as an entrepreneur, right? So life gives you that education. It's different from tuition, right? That we pay in college. But help the listeners understand how persevering through corporate America may have helped reduce your stress as an emerging entrepreneur.
So when I think about that question, a couple of things come to mind. The first time I jumped out and tried to be an entrepreneur didn't end so well. And I mean, that's just sort of how the game goes, right? But I found that I didn't have the internal skill sets, like the soft skills yet, the perspective. So when I went back to corporate the second time, I had a different perspective. I started to study the organization from a lens of, if this were my company, and looking at myself as an entrepreneur, even though I was employed, how would I run it? How do they handle onboarding? What are the gaps? What can I learn from that? How do they handle offboarding? Do they have offboarding? Do people like working here? If so, why? What makes this a great organization? Things like that. And so then when I jumped out the second time, I was much better prepared to run a business, right? Owning a business and running a business are not the same thing, right? And having a business and being a great leader in that business are also not the same thing. And so I found that leveraging the experience in corporate helped me understand what good leadership looked like, what good and what bad leadership looked like. So I knew what kind of leader I did not want to be, right? From experience. And I had a sense of what a good culture looked like, felt like, and what that did to the bottom line. And so to answer your question, it was perspective and looking at an organization in totality, how it's run, et cetera, and just learning and growing, and also growing as a human, as a person, and myself as well. It's like being honest with myself with where my shortfalls were, like things that I needed to work on, getting good at asking for feedback and not getting defensive when people gave it to me, because I had people in my life that would tell me, well, Elzie, sometimes you come across as X. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that hurt, but where's the truth in it? And what do I need to do to grow and get better? And so it really helped me develop as a leader, so that when I stepped out the second time, I was much, much better prepared.
And reduced your stress. You had a different code. So I'm hearing you say that one of your codes for calm that you have gained in your life is being prepared, learning from your experiences, learning from others, so that you took more away from the job, if you would, than just the check itself or the income itself. So when you said you tried entrepreneurship and you didn't do so well the first time, can I ask how long you tried it and how long when you pivoted back into corporate, how long you were there before you tried again?
Yes, for sure. So it was quick. It didn't take me long to realize that I wasn't ready and it wasn't working. So it was probably about 3 months or so. And the severance ran out and there was no money coming in, and I'm like, okay, I need to get a job. So that was the long and short of it. It was really quick and painful. Quick and painful.
Well, they say that people learn because of a experience or because of pain, right? Something happens and that kind of helps them learn. But then you went back to corporate and with a different mindset. And then how long were you there?
So I went back the second time. I was in corporate for, let's see, I want to say 7 years. And the thing when I think about a code for calm, the thing that was different the second time was alignment. I understood better who I was, who I wanted to be, and who I didn't want to be. And so I didn't take roles that would cause me to go outside of that, if that makes sense. And so I landed at a company that was well led. The people were amazing. The pay was amazing. I had benefits. I had plenty of time off. It was the only job, Melanie, that I could ever say that I liked. Every other job I've ever had, it was a means to an end. This one, I woke up and I was like, okay, I want to go to work today. But that was the difference, right? It was that alignment piece. It was where I needed to be to get what I needed to get me to the next level. And so I was there for about 6 years. And then I moved to an organization as an operations manager for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. Complete opposite. Dysfunctional. Most of the people had personality issues. But the ironic thing is, it was also where I needed to be in that season. It was the nest being stirred up and made uncomfortable so that I could jump out and do my own thing. And so both roles were exactly what I needed at that time to come out the second time and be stronger and better. And it's been coming up on 7 years now that I've been running this business full time.
So you had to be introspective. I mean, because we can all have experiences and gain nothing from them. And being a good leader that is not all stressed out, I think involves being introspective. In my framework of stop it, the first thing you have to do is scan. Look at yourself. Listen to what's happening. What has grounded you to have the courage to do that? Because, who likes to look at the bad? Who likes the truth for real? I mean,
Yeah. I think for me, it's been my faith and just understanding that, my work is bigger than just me. It will outlast me, hopefully, and that people that I have never met will be impacted by the work that I do. And so that sort of grounds me and, checks me at the door when I start to get outside of myself and thinking that I'm bigger than I am or better than I am. It allows me to take a step back and say, okay, Elzie, here's why you're really leading. This leadership is it's a mantle, it's an assignment, and it's a gift. And a lot of people mishandle it. I don't want to be that leader that mishandles the people that I'm supposed to be leading. And so I'm always acutely aware of that my words carry weight, that people remember how you make them feel.
Yes.
I got a message online from a person that years ago, this was decade ago, just saying that, the way I carry myself was a blessing to them. And I'm like, that was years ago. So it's just that little reminder that the way you walk in a room, the way you greet people, the way you handle rejection, the way you handle conflict, the way you welcome people, the way you say goodbye to people, all of those things seem small. But as a leader, those are all things that are important because people will remember how you made them feel. And they will remember that you helped them, and they will remember that you cared. And so I keep all of that in the front of my mind as I go about leadership and doing the things that I'm doing. And that keeps me grounded because I know the weight of the actions that I'm taking.
Well, another theme I hear from what you are sharing is that you are grounded in values and you want to make an impact, so that you see yourself as a leader, not just in the role of a leader, but it's a opportunity to build others. And maybe that is another code for calm, is knowing what you're doing and knowing why you're doing it.
Yeah. And I think for me, I genuinely love to build people up. In fact, when people come onto my team, I always tell them my job is to grow you to the point where when you leave, because you will leave, everything that starts is already ending. When you leave, you're a better professional than you were when you got here, and that I did everything I could to help you get to where you want to be, whether that's with us or somewhere else that is not here. And so yeah, that for me, as a leader, that's my job. My job is to help you grow and to help you get better, whether that's you are with me for a year or 2 years or 20 years.
Well, you haven't been in corporate. You know all the metrics, the pressures around metrics and KPIs and data and income, the pressures that corporate can have that can limit potentially a leader's ability to build their team, and because of the virtual nature of so much of our work, to really know the human being on the other side of the screen. What guidance would you give to leaders who are in the corporate environment, are still trying to figure out, well, what impact can I make? Because so much is scripted by the organization so that I survive and I live without burnout and stress.
Yeah, I have a thing that I call my joy meter. And
Joy meter?
Joy meter, yep. And so it goes from 1 to 10. And when my joy meter dips below an 8, I start to pay attention. When my joy meter dips below a 6, I start to cut things off. And that's things or people. As a leader in corporate, pay attention to that because that's a signal. If you are at a 6, you will not be able to lead people effectively. You just can't. Because if you are not optimized yourself, you will not be able to lead people. You just can't. You can go through the motions. And that's the reason why in a lot of corporate organizations, departments are terrible because the leader is at a 4. They don't even want to be there. And so it trickles down. So I think that's the first thing, is really understanding where you are, because where you are, that's where you're going to lead people.
The team is.
Yep. And then after that, you really have to be honest with yourself and take the steps necessary to move that needle from wherever it is to where it needs to be. Maybe that's with a different organization. Maybe that's a different department. maybe you shouldn't be leading right now in this season. Maybe you should step down and become an individual contributor for a while until you can figure out how to get to that 8. So I think that's the first step is you got to be good. There's a reason why when you're on an airplane, they tell you if things go wrong and the oxygen mask comes off, you got to put yours on first. There's a reason they say that. So my first piece of advice would be leaders, put your oxygen mask on. Your joy meter is off, then you're not going to be effective. The second thing is once you get that joy meter in order, I want you to go and pay attention to the little things in your team, because people, they understand that you're in a corporate environment, so you have to do the things that you have to do. But what they're going to notice is that you know their name. You know that their child is a freshman at Indiana University. You care about them as a human. Not saying that you have to be friends with them necessarily, but you have to care about them before they'll trust you to follow you, to truly follow you outside of just you being a positional leader. And then I would say understand how they like to be communicated to. Some people, you can be direct with them and tell them, like, Melanie, the report you submitted to me sucked, and here are the 3 reasons why. Some people can take that. Some people don't like to be communicated that way. So understand how your people like to be communicated to and communicate to them that way. And be patient, be kind, and be consistent. Be consistent and mean what you say and say what you mean. Now, that was kind of a lot, but that's when I think about advice in a corporate setting, that's what comes up for me.
So I heard you talk about accountability, being accountable, and building trust, and knowing people by their name, because people do want to be called by their name, and understanding them enough to understand how they would like to be communicated with. And I get that. I can take anything. Just tell me what you want. Tell me the truth. I'm not soft, right? But everyone is not me. It took me some time to understand that everyone was not me. And so I have had some painful lessons in my work history as well. So I love the nuggets, Elzie. They've been so rich. Accountability, the joy meter. And I think sometimes people get so burned out that the burned out, numb feeling becomes the norm to them. And they normalize that numbness. And they don't even know they have a joy meter or that things can be different.
Yeah.
Which is what I think why we encourage people to listen, hopefully, to this podcast and at least ask themselves and believe that it can be different. Because we normalize behaviors and feelings that I think as faith-based people, we know God has so much more for us.
Yeah. I always tell people your life is a sum total of the decisions that you made. And if you don't like where your life is right now, you can make different decisions and different choices to change the bed that you made.
And
that's
people are afraid.
Both true and scary at the same time.
It's true and scary. We talk about that quite often on this podcast, that sometimes, even though we want to give you tools to manage the stress, sometimes you have to remove yourself and plan to do it. So I love all those nuggets that you shared. As we get ready to close, I'd like you, one, to give us your code for calm, if you have an acronym for that, or however you'd like to share it. And then close by sharing where the listeners can connect with you.
My code for calm is going to be that joy meter, right? It is literally my compass, and I've gotten to the point where it's dialed in, so I know what gives me joy. And I wanted to add as a subtext to that, joy and happiness are not the same thing. Eating chocolate makes me happy, but joy is intrinsic, right? So get yourself a joy meter, dial it in, and pay attention to it every day. That's my code. So JOY, that's my code. And if people want to reach out and get in touch with me, it's really pretty straightforward. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So if you type in Elzie Flenard, there aren't too many Elzie Flenards on the planet. So I'll come up. And you can also find me on my website, elzieflenard.com.
Thank you for being such an amazing guest, providing such a unique and powerful toolkit for Code for Calm, the joy meter, JOY. I love it. I love it. So if this episode of Code Calm was a blessing to you, please like and follow us. And remember to live healthy and live well. Make it a great day.